gentlemen, we bring you a man who as a child had whooping cough, measles, and violin lessons, Jack Benny.
DeLaO again. This is not Jack Benny talking. So who do you think it is? Now guess. No. No. Give up? It's me.
Ta-da! Little trivia for you out there, and this is something I frequently refer to offer support, I think, for others, especially who are about to testify. Did you know that Mary Livingston developed stage fright 15, 20 years into her career? That's pretty amazing. Who would have thought that could happen? But she did. That is why, especially post-war, there's a lot less of her, which is always a shame, because if you know anything about the Jack Benny Show, you'll know that one of the greatest episodes is his first show for CBS, and it's really sort of a vehicle to introduce his cast to the CBS audience, and then also do a crossover with existing CBS shows. So he goes to the CBS lot that day and is introduced to a bunch of the CBS characters, and without fail, they all say, that Mr. Benny's supposed to be a comedian, but I don't know, he doesn't seem very funny to me. And the refrain is always, while he wouldn't be nothing or anything, depending on who the character is, if it wasn't for Mary Livingston. Yeah. Man, that is a great episode. All right, let's move on. To anybody, by the way, who is not fully up to date on their Jack Benny canon, could possibly be missing out. All right, here we are on, I think we're on number 5 here of Novak Decision. I'm chomping at the bit, by the way, to get to beyond these facts and to get to what about the bias issue. That's what I'm looking forward to. But, hey, much like the introduction, you got to get through your certain things that you have to progress before you can get to the end. So, okay. During the investigation of internal affairs of the escape, Fessahaya was getting regular reports about the investigation from Preston, the internal affairs director. On April 28th, Fessahaya received an initial draft of the AAR discussing the April 16, 2020 escape by 2 inmates from CCR. After considering the preliminary information for the investigation and initial draft of the AAR, Fessahaya was concerned that the leadership team at CCI, specifically Novak, Weber, and Gusky, had possibly violated work rules. Fessahaya discussed her concerns with the human resources personnel at the central office and legal counsel before moving forward. That's fantasy. I mean, we can say if that included the most important part, which is Secretary Carr, who was, the one who actually originated all that. So that's, I would say, just inaccurate, just on purpose, from the way that I read it. But that's my reading. Lala, come here. She did. All right. Barn Dog, it's 20 degrees out there. As you well know, the difference, I'm sure, everybody who lives in these polar climes, that the difference between, let's say, 50 degrees, and that's on the Fahrenheit scale, to 32 is about the same as 32 to 20, and then again to 20 to 15. Well, we're at like 13 right now, and she made a good pitch for coming inside, and here we are. All right. Although Fessahaya had the authority as DAR administrator to place Novak, Weber, and Gusky on administrative leave and to refer them to be investigated for possible work rule violations by Internal Affairs, Fesehaya determined from her experience with Secretary Carr that he would want to know before she was placed someone as high profile as a warden on administrative leave pending the results of an investigation for possible work rule violations. That's threading the needle there, the same way that she wrote this paragraph, although Novak could put people out on leave. She did in a directive from Carr. Want to know if she was placed someone. Fesehaya discussed with Carr the issues that had arisen during the investigation from CCI. Fesehaya believed warranted an investigation of Novak, Weber, and Gusky for possible work rule violations. After being briefed by Fesehaya about her reasons for believing that Novak, Weber, and Gusky should be placed on administrative leave pending the results of a disciplinary investigation, Secretary Carr did not object to Fesehaya placing Novak, Weber, and Gusky on administrative leave pending the results of the investigation for possible work rule violations. Is that the evidence you have? Because it's not what I have. Carr and Fesehaya were not aware until after the escape that the stun fence at CCI was improperly installed. Carr requested emergency funds to repair the fence once he became aware of the improper installation of the fence. On April 29th, Fesehaya had 4 employees notified by letters from Fesehaya that they were immediately being placed on administrative leave with pay pending the outcome of an investigation of alleged misconduct. These employees included the top leaders at CCI, Novak, Weber, and Lucas, as well as the female food service worker. Fesehaya placed 2 females and 2 males on administrative leave with pay. Okay. First of all, the question is, had they ever investigated a warden before? That's really the question. Not whether some of these people were males and some were females. Oh, and that's, of course, only in terms of the female food service worker. She had to add that in there. Wow. Now, just the thing that's really giving me pause there is the evidence that I've seen is that Carr made that decision. And first it was Carr, and then it was her in consultation with Carr. But she couldn't point to any particular work rule violation. So, for possible work rule violation, was Fesehaya able to identify what the work rule violations were? I don't think she was able to do that. Wow. Wow. Novak was not treated differently because of her sex when she was placed on administrative leave in connection with the issues that came to light during the inmates' escape from CCI. Like the 2 top male leaders at CCI, Weber and Gusky, Novak was placed on administrative leave by Fesehaya while she was investigated for work rule violations in connection with the escape of 2 inmates on April 16th. The impetus for placing Novak, Weber, and Gusky on administrative leave pending disciplinary investigation of the 3 leaders were serious issues that came to light in connection with investigating the escape that implicated the decision, judgments, and actions of CCI leaders, Novak, Weber, and Gusky. Novak, Weber, and Gusky were all career executives in the same classification and eligible to be placed in each other's positions. Well, so were Percy. So, yeah. Novak were similarly situated to the extent that they were all career executives and they were all leaders at CCI during the relevant period. Was that the testimony? Did anybody hear that testimony that they were all that they were in any way similarly situated, or that wardens were categorically different? Did we hear that testimony? How many times, I guess one could say, did we hear the testimony that wardens were categorically different? Here it comes. On May 3rd, while Novak was on administrative leave, Novak sent an email directly to Secretary Carr to present information about the escape that Novak felt that Carr should know in connection with her conduct with respect to the April 16th, 2020 escape for which she was now going to be investigated. In the email, Novak stated that she had talked to Doug Percy about Holly Zimdahl, about whether Novak should be put Zimdahl on leave, but Percy just told Zimdahl, you make the decision, it's your institution, run it. So I assume that's Novak. Novak also stated that neither Percy nor Fesahaya provided Novak with support after the escape to make sure that Novak was following protocol after the escape or any other after-action guidance. I don't see anything with them about them investigating, not investigating Percy, but having him subject to several interviews, have the two conflicting testimony, and having Carr just say that Percy, it's okay, Percy was, they told me that Percy didn't do anything wrong. But, okay, maybe she'll get to that later. We'll see. Since Secretary and Carr do not get involved in disciplinary investigations by Internal Affairs, Carr forwarded Novak's May 3, 2020 email. So that's just false. Since Secretary Carr and his office do not get involved in disciplinary investigations by Internal Affairs, how many times did we have Secretary Carr say that he was getting briefed? How many times did we have Preston say that she was briefing Carr and Petchacek? How many times? How many times did Fesahaya say that she wasn't getting briefed? It was going to Petchacek and Carr. So that's getting to be one of the more shocking ones I've seen so far. I mean, where do they even get that sentence? Carr and his office do not get involved in disciplinary investigations by Internal Affairs. Carr forwarded Novak's email to the Deputy Secretary, Amy Petchacek, without comment. Petchacek forwarded Novak's email without comment to Preston because they don't get involved. They just forward emails. On May 18th, Preston forwarded Novak's May 3rd without comment to lead investigators that she had assigned to conduct the disciplinary investigations in connection with the April 16th, 2020 escape from CCI. Okay. On May 6th, Fesahaya formally submitted the form that starts a disciplinary investigation called the First Report of Potential Work Rule Violation. It's also called the 15807. The report stated that the preliminary AAR indicated there were security issues at CCI that CCI leadership did not address and that security issues led to the escape. Additionally, the first report of potential work rule violation stated that CCI leadership had failed to follow serious incident policy and incident reporting guidelines on the date of the escape in a timely manner. During the investigation of Novak's conduct in connection with the escape, Internal Affairs interviewed 13 people, including Novak, Weber, and Gusky. During the investigation of Novak in connection with the April 16th, 2020 escape, Percy was interviewed 2 times. One topic about which Percy was asked questions about was whether he had spoken to Novak about Holly Zimdahl and about whether Novak should put Zimdahl on leave pending the outcome of disciplinary investigation. Percy stated that he did not recall talking to Novak about Zimdahl specifically, but he recalled talking about Novak about serious issues with several employees in the kitchen staff. I don't recall that. Percy stated that he generally listened to wardens who reported to him, discussed issues the wardens had with employees. In these discussions, Percy acted more as a sounding board for the warden and asked the warden questions to help the warden decide how to handle the issues. However, Percy did not believe that it was his role to tell a warden how to run the prison or how to deal with the prison staff, since the warden was in charge of the prison and the prison's personnel, and the warden had the authority to decide if any employee should be investigated for misconduct. Now, was that his testimony? And is that accurate? Let's ask ourselves both of those questions there. And what testimony would DeLaO had to have disbelieved to have found that possibly? Fesahaya took no action to investigate Percy for a possible rule violation in relation to the April 16th inmate escape from CCI, since Fesahaya did not consider Percy to be responsible for security decisions and personnel decisions at CCI. Fesahaya considered the responsibility for security and personnel decisions at CCI to be the responsibility of the leadership team assigned to CCI, the warden, the deputy warden, and the security director. Percy's sex was not the reason that Percy was not considered by Fesahaya as someone who should be investigated for misconduct in connection with April 16, 2020 inmate escape from CCI. Wow. Well, there you have it, folks. You gotta believe, old Alice there. That's pretty shocking, to say the least. I think we've had some pretty shocking statements so far, and some of them, I mean, she can just believe Fesahaya. She does have that discretion and that ability, even though Fesahaya is, in my mind, totally not credible. But the comment there that Fesahaya considered the responsibility for the security and personnel decisions at CCI to be the responsibility of the leadership team assigned to CCI. That is astonishing. I think it jives with both the testimony. I haven't heard any testimony from Mr. Swatshirt mentioned once at all. We've only really had the statements of Carr, Fesahaya, somebody who didn't testify, Petracek, all those were taken verbatim, but Novak and others apparently were not. So, all right, well, we'll keep going here. Thanks for sticking with us. I guess we even ended the exit music here. We'll keep you informed.